It's time we talk about becoming assertive. This has come off the back of quite a lot of you actually messaging me saying that you'd like me to talk about becoming more bold, becoming more assertive, learning how to better stand up for yourself and not be that girl who keeps on being too forgiving. So, today we will be tackling the understanding girlfriend trope because that is what has got my people in a deep, firm, tight chokehold. When we talk about assertiveness, I think for a lot of women, the definition revolves around this idea of a woman who is cold, who is unsympathetic, who is almost robotic, a woman who is unwavering in her ideas and what she wants, which often leaves little to no wiggle room for the relationship. And whilst those might be themes that fall under the definition of an assertive woman, that is not the complete definition, in my opinion, because as an assertive woman myself, I believe there are other traits that make you assertive, especially within the context of dating men. So, one of the key traits in being assertive is having your absolute non negotiables. For each woman, this will differ. For some women, their non negotiables are the man needs to be an emotional support for them, or the man absolutely cannot cheat. Like, that would be an ultimate deal breaker for the relationship. For other women, their non negotiables are the guy needs to be good looking and tall and funny and have the same music taste. Every woman's non negotiables derives from what your life looks like, what you want from a partner, and what you actually prefer. So for me, my non negotiables, which if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, then you're probably already aware of what I expect from a man. But if you're new here, I'll bring you up to speed. My personal non negotiables are I don't make room for men who want to argue with me. An argument is not the same thing as a discussion, an argument is not the same thing as a debate. However, there are times when debating slips into the territory of arguing, and I found that sometimes when a man wants to debate about your standards, I do think he's trying to haggle you down or even haggle you out of seeing yourself in such light that he's using the safe route to essentially talk you out of having self-worth that's high enough to possibly eliminate him as a contender for your pussy. That is why I don't meddle with the sort of like hashtag intellectual rolled up beanie hat ass men who try to pose hypotheses and scenarios to essentially guilt you into settling. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. An example I've encountered many a time. So, let's say I express to a man, a non negotiable of mine is if a man's going to be in my life, occupying romantic and intimate territory, he will need to be a provider. The debating, rolled up beanie ass man is going to ask me, well, what do you mean by provider? Usually, when a man asks that question, he's already disqualified himself because we all know what provide means. But when people, especially men, ask you to elaborate on what provider means, prepare yourself. You're about to go into battle because they want to start arguing and using semantics to confuse you. They want to have you stuttering. They want to see you justify why you deserve to be taken care of by a man who wants to be inside of you. and you have to decide to not rise to the bait. So that's why for me, a non-negotiable is a man who likes to debate and argue. Now, some women are really into that because they see it as intellectual, what they call it, sapiosexual. Well, we all know. If you don't know, I'll bring you up to speed. Sapiosexual describes a person who is attracted sexually to a person's mind, their intelligence, the mental connection. It's a very psychological level of attraction. Whilst I find the word sapiosexual incredibly corny and tacky, I probably would identify to some degree as a sapiosexual, but having said that, I'm turned off by men who want to argue because, yes, a non negotiable of mine, like I said, is men who want to debate. When we talk about being assertive and we discuss non negotiables, it is actually a non negotiable that you create your non negotiables. If you want to be more assertive, you must have non negotiables. You can't really be wishy washy, one foot in, one foot out. You have to decide, this is the woman I want to be. And if this is the woman I want to be, this is the scenario I see myself being in with a man. And this is the type of man I see myself being with in said scenario. You have to literally plot out your life. It doesn't mean you're predicting your life. It doesn't mean you're following a rigid plan for your life. It just means that you're creating parameters that allow you to guide yourself through the more spontaneous or unexpected experiences you'll come across, so that no matter how spontaneous or unexpected the experience is, the outcome is still going to be closer to what you want than what you don't want. And normally I found that the women who lack that assertive backbone, they're childish enough and I think irresponsible enough to leave their life up to chance and a dice toss and a let's see where the vibe takes me. Baby, listen, if you're past 25, you don't have the time to be seeing where the vibe takes you if you're dating men. Everywhere else in your life, I completely resonate with the idea of letting the wind carry you and seeing what the curiosity brings to the surface. But when it comes to men, you need to be protective of yourself and you need to be calculated, because not only are men dangerous, they are also people that can derail you from the life you want for yourself. And I've seen it happen to the strongest of soldiers. So don't think you're exempt just because you're pretty. Don't think you're exempt just because you're smart. Don't think you're exempt because you are experienced with dating men. You have to always keep your eyes on the ball. You always have to keep your foot on the gas. You always need to stay focused. It only takes one man. It only takes one man for you to be derailed from your purpose. And like I said, if you're a woman who lacks that assertiveness, you are prime prey. You in danger, girl. So another thing about developing assertiveness, especially when it comes to the topic of your non-negotiables, for me, another non-negotiable outside of a man being a provider, another non-negotiable is I'm not interested in being with a man who is off and on with me. So that means, a man who's got cold feet, a man who will be intense and present and attached to you at certain points, and then other times he's detached and cold and unpredictable and hard to read. I'm not doing that, because for me, once a man starts acting like he's no longer interested in keeping me pleased based on the promises, the environment, and the energy he's created in this relationship, I'm not about to make excuses for why he might be quietly cutting me off. I'm just going to assume there's another girl. If you like a guy and he likes you too, and he's going through something, he will tell you, just like how he knows how to open his mouth to ask you for pussy. Sorry, babe. You can't just be like, oh, I'm a good communicator, but you're only a good communicator when you want to press my breast. But then when you've decided that you want to ghost me because you're getting attention from another woman, now you're not a good communicator. How does that work, eh? So as a woman, you need to decide not only what your non-negotiables are, but how you're going to behave when you're confronted with a situation that you're not willing to pivot or compromise on. And I am not a very compromising woman. I can compromise on things like, you know, you wanted us to hang out on Wednesday, something has come up, and you've moved plans to Friday. I'm open to compromising if you've given me a good reason to compromise. What I'm not going to compromise on is settling for a man who, yeah, he's a provider, but he treats me hot and cold. Because if a man is providing for me and he's treating me hot and cold, but the provision is there, unwavering provision, unwavering financial security from that man, then I'll still be taking his money, but I'll demote him. He'll be demoted in my life. And I will promote somebody else. So somebody else is going to be getting the star employee badge of the month. All because somebody else decided to drop their pace. Cold world. It be like that. But that's another way that I'm able to remain assertive. I don't have just one guy. I don't believe in having just one guy. I've seen it happen to the strongest of soldiers, the sexiest of soldiers, the buffest of soldiers, the smartest of soldiers. They let themselves go when they have just one guy. I'm like, girl, can you not see what's going wrong here? You're too invested in this man. You've forgotten that you're a baddie. You've forgotten how beautiful you are. You've forgotten how easy it is for you to attract men like the one that you've bound yourself to. And now I can just see you withering away. Every day you're biting your nails in anxiety of what girl is he talking to. He was hot and cold with me today. Here we go again. Instead of just talk to somebody else, you're there. So my thing is, the less attached emotionally you are to a man, the easier it will be to be assertive. But we will revisit the emotional attachment conversation because I want to talk about being gracefully assertive versus being aggressive and combative. Because I think that for a lot of women who want to be more assertive, they're worried about coming across aggressive. And this is a concern I think largely pertains to black women, because black women are already being called aggressive for just having self-worth and declaring said worth. I've been called aggressive before by a black man simply for being very forthcoming and direct about what behavior I expect from him, especially because he approached me. But as I get older, as I get wiser, as I develop more tact, as I speak to more and more guys, I'm starting to find what works, what rolls off the tongue more naturally, what creates results sooner, and what allows me to either leave or stay in that situation with my head held high on my high horse. So what does graceful assertion look like? Well, phrases like, we'll have to see. I love a we'll have to see. We'll have to see. It's vague, but it's not necessarily doubtful. Yet at the same time, it's so open-ended that everything falls on the person who made the statement that implies a promise. So when a man is like, I'm going to treat you like a queen, my response, okay, we'll have to see. We'll have to see if you're a man of your word. Because it's also a reverse psychological phrase that puts the man in a position where he's got something to prove to you. And it's not like you came out of nowhere and made him prove something. It's because he went and opened his mouth and said something, and now he's got to live up to it, because that's going to determine where the connection goes next. I really strongly believe in the saying, a promise is only comfort to a fool. I really resonate with that saying because I do think that when men promise you stuff and you respond to them based on what they have verbally promised you, you look stupid. You look stupid. Until that promise has materialized, you're not going to be producing any behavior to reflect the gratitude for what he promised you. It's really frustrating to see women giving men such intimate, personal, sexual access to their lives just because a man promised he's going to marry you one day. Do you know what else can happen one day? The apocalypse. We don't know when that's going to happen, but we're heading in the direction of an apocalypse, but we don't know when. Might not happen in our lifetime, but one day. Do you know what else is going to happen one day? Jesus is coming back. Yeah. But we don't know when that's going to happen, but it was promised in the holy book that Jesus will be making a return. We don't know if that will happen in our particular lifetime, but we do know it's going to happen one day. So when a man be promising you, yeah, I'm going to buy you shoe and bag, until said shoe and said bag has been bought, you better not be shining your teeth. You better not be calling him baby. You better not be rubbing your acrylics on the back of his head. You better be treating him like the normal ass dude that he is until proven otherwise. That is how you maintain graceful assertion. We will have to see. We'll have to see. Another thing I love about we'll have to see is it's just such a classy thing to say. Because most men expect you to get excited. That's why they say those things to you. You don't know. That's what I'm saying. You should, hey, I don't know about you guys, yeah. But if I wasn't me, the Slumflower, Chidera, and I was a listener of my podcast, I would be waking up randomly at 3 a.m. in the night just angry when I remember all the things men have done. You know when your head just gets hot when you realise, oh my God, I was taken for a dickhead and it's too late to do something about it now. Jesus Christ. I've had those moments. Even as of recent, I wouldn't necessarily say, oh my God, I was a dickhead, but there's moments where I've joined the dots randomly. I'm like, oh my God, that guy thought I was an idiot because I was being nice to him. Okay. Don't worry, innit? Now I know how to behave when I meet the next guy, because most guys have similar traits if they're approaching you for a particular reason anyway. So, graceful assertion, and we'll have to see. Again, it puts the man in a position where now he has to actually do what he said he was going to do. Because then if he doesn't do it, remember, you've already said to him, we'll have to see if you're a man of your word. So now he's not a man of his word if he hasn't done it. Now it's really awkward because that gives you ample reason now to pull away from him. You get to now use the line, well, unfortunately, you're not a man of your word. And I'm not enticed by men who don't live up to the promises that they make. See how you use language? Classy. I'm not enticed. Now, if we were to rephrase that in a way that is combative and quote unquote aggressive, the same sentiment could be expressed as, well, you said you was going to buy me a shoe and then you didn't buy it and I don't like that. So when are you getting me the shoe then? When are you getting me the shoe then? Rah, see, this is what I mean, man. God, like, if you're going to be that kind of guy, then don't chat to me, innit? Even though in both examples, the same sentiment has been expressed, being that if you're not a man of your word, then you have no business being here. One example just comes across a lot more classy and is likely to get you better results in the long term than the other. Which example do we think is going to make you look more classy and grant you better results in the long term? Is it A, we'll have to see if you're a man of your word? Or is it B, make sure you get me the shoe, we'll have to see, I want the shoe? Or is it A, Unfortunately, you didn't live up to the promise you kept. I was hoping to see if you'd be a man of your word, but it's clear that you're not the gentleman that I thought you were. Or is it B? You didn't get me the shoe you said you was gonna get me. I don't like that. Whatever in it. Like, obviously, you said you was gonna get me the shoe and you didn't. So don't chat to me in it. I've been both, by the way. But yeah, A all the way, man. A all the way. You got to use trigger words like man of your word, gentleman, enticed. If you want to take it up a little notch, turned on. I am not turned on by a man who cannot keep to his word. It's a huge turn off for me when a man cannot live up to the promises that he goes out of his way to make. Ways you can be positively assertive, because me, I believe in positive reinforcement, and I use positive reinforcement to flirt and to give the guy guidance to know that yes, you're moving in the right direction. So far what you're doing is working. And by so far what you're doing is working, I mean your behavior is getting us closer to a place where I'm likely to trust you more. And of course, in the grand scheme of things, if a woman trusts you more, she's more likely to sleep with you. So I'm talking around the thing, but still being direct. So ways that I like to use positive reinforcement with men is, the other day when you did XYZ, I was very turned on by that. But the thing I'm describing is something to do with him providing. Because I am reinforcing the conditioning and brainwashing. Yes, hypnotize. I'm reinforcing the conditioning and the brainwashing that you are here to please me. I didn't send you to come here. I was minding my business. You came to chat to me. So I never feel bad about creating an environment where a man is pleasing me. Next time, don't approach me in it because I was minding my own. And you came to me because you want to press my breast. Well, since you want to press my breast, here is what's going to get me to a place where I'm likely to bring out the breast for you to press. If you can't do that, be on your merry way, find somebody else to do that with. I'm sure there are many women who have low enough standards to tolerate, accept, and embrace you as you are. It's not me, though. It's not me. But with positive reinforcement, the goal is to encourage and emphasize the behaviors that you do like. You don't have to be combative to get your way with men. I believe, even with being combative, there's still a way to do it that keeps you grounded, classy, and not heated. Because men love it when you're heated. They fucking love it. I'll tell you a scenario that happened the other day, actually. Let me read this text out, because this literally happened 2-3 days ago. I was at a party, and it was a party put on by a celebrity to promote her album. And I had a great time at that party. I met a guy at the party who happens to be on her team, and he also works in one of London's most popular nightclubs. I don't know if he's I think he's a I don't know if he's a promoter at the nightclub, but he got me into that nightclub because I wanted to go that same night that I met him. So what had happened was, we met at the party. He seemed nice. When he told me that he's on the team of the musician whose party I was at, it made me see him in a somewhat respectable light, just by proxy of the celebrity that he works for. Because obviously that tells me that he's not just some wayward, silly boy. He's got some sort of, serious job going for him. Doesn't mean he's rich or minted. It just means that at least he's in a cool position. He's connected. So at the very least, even if nothing comes of this, I'm connected with someone cool, so I can come to more parties of this nature. Because the record label that he's working at, there are other very incredible musicians who I also like who are signed to that label. Anyway, He invited me to come to the club that night. I was meant to go with my friend, but she had her period, so she dropped out. So I was like, fine, I'll just go on my own. It's not that serious. Especially because he's someone that I thought would be cool to just be connected with. You know, taking one for the team and that. So I let him know when I've arrived at the club, and you know, it's all smooth getting in. I'm on the guest list. I walk in. Mind you guys, it is a Sunday night. So I wasn't expecting the club to be like absolutely lit, but you know, I got there and I was just like, I'm cold because the AC is high on blast. And did you know, fun facts, because when I used to work in a strip club, yeah, I learned that the reason why that the AC is on blast when you're in like clubs, club environments is so that the alcohol takes longer to settle into your system. Therefore, you will buy more drinks because obviously the hotter you are, you get drunker quicker. Fun fact. Anyway, AC blaring. I'm cold because I'm not dancing, because the music is like 2012 sort of music. You know, the kind of music that you play when you're like starting up. You're doing like the startup set. And it's not that I got to the club early. I got to the club around like 1:30, but it was just a Sunday night. It wasn't given. And I noticed that this guy, he wasn't giving me the hospitality that I expected, given that the reason why I even felt like, okay, I'm going to go to this club is because when I met him at the party, he said to me that he's going to treat me like a queen at the club. So I thought, okay, that means I'm going to have, you know, a good night. I'll be taken care of by this guy. It'll be fine. But I was bored. So he offered me a VIP wristband to go to the VIP section if I wanted to. And initially I said no because I was like, oh, I'm going to be on my own though. I want to like be with you because I came here because of you. But then I noticed that he was paying more attention to all the other girls that he invited under the same premise as me, if that makes sense. So like, I was just another girl that he's invited to fill out the club. And the male to female ratio in that club was very off. There were so many women and very few men. And you know, these nightclubs, like they need women to be in the clubs because women are the product, obviously. So after a while, when I clocked this is not going to get any better by me just standing behind him and side-eyeing all these girls who I was just like, I don't even need to be here. I asked him for the VIP wristband. He got me a VIP wristband. I went to VIP and I was still kind of on my own for a bit. But, you know, I met a couple girls who were like, oh my God, Slumflower, I love your book. So I went into their section. They were with their ballers and the spenders, you know, the usual. But I wasn't even in that club trying to meet anyone. It's a Sunday night. Most of these girls look sort of like Middle Eastern and mixed race. So I already know that the black men they're surrounded by are colorists. They like mixed race and or anything close to white because they're colorist in it. So I'm not even going to try and smooch too much in this space. I'm going to enjoy myself in my little corner and keep it pushing. And that's exactly what I did. Had a good time. But I was bored because the man who brought me here neglected me. And I was pissed off by that. So when I went home, I noticed that he had messaged me, but I wasn't even looking at my phone. So he messaged me to say, hey, babe, I had to leave. I took someone to the hospital. And I didn't believe that because I'm like, oh, sorry, Oga paramedic. Oga first aid. First response units. You took someone to the hospital. Why are you taking someone to the hospital? Why is it you that took someone to the hospital? That's interesting. I personally didn't believe it, but I don't care. I don't know him well enough to care. I can't be asked. That was at like 2:30. He sent me that message. 2:30 in the morning. Yeah, I ignored that. Then around 2 p.m. in the afternoon, following day, or I should say the same day because it's 2:30 a.m. that I last heard from him. 2 p.m. So like 12 hours later, he messages me, hey. So then 2 hours later, I get back to him and I say, hello. I wasn't impressed by yesterday at all, especially because you created the impression I would be treated like a queen. You seemed more preoccupied with all the women you were entertaining as your guests. Anyway, hope you had a fun night. And then at 9 p.m, he comes back to me. Oh my days. I'm so sorry. You came in looking so moody, so I wasn't sure what to do. There was no smile, and I was just not sure if I should give you some space or engage. I'm sorry you felt that way. And I ignored that because I don't know if you can tell what's happening here, but this is another thing about learning to be assertive. You need to pay attention to how men handle a situation that appears to be conflict. They're either going to deflect or take responsibility. This one chose to deflect. If you notice, he said, "You came in looking so moody, so I wasn't sure what to do." That's not true. I came in, I assessed my environment. I'm not going to be smiling all 30 of my teeth. Like, what the hell? I was receptive to him. The only thing that he said to me was, "You look so sexy." And I smiled. I don't have much to say to him, but I didn't come in looking moody. But he said that on purpose, especially when he added, "So I wasn't sure what to do," to put the blame on me by making it seem like I created an environment where he couldn't take care of me, even though he told me I'd be treated like a queen. Now, when you look at the second message, he said, "There was no smile, and I was just not sure if I should give you some space or engage." As a man, how cowardly can you be that because a woman is not smiling, you don't know how to diffuse that? Mind you, at this point, I wasn't beefing him in the club. I didn't even complain to him. I just wasn't impressed. I'm not going to be pretending to be impressed. Extra context, this is a good looking young man. You know how I feel about good looking men. He's good looking. I think he's probably like a couple years older than me. Tall, all the things, black. But, But if you notice in my communication, it was very clear. It was not emotional. There was no signs of me being jealous about the other women. I was just saying, you seem more preoccupied with the women, because that's what it was. He was preoccupied with them. I don't know. I don't know what else I could have said. Anyway, he ended that with, "I'm sorry you felt that way." I didn't say anything in response to that because you're tripping. You must be joking. You're gaslighting me and you're deflecting. There's nothing to say in it. But then today at 12 a.m. in the morning, he messages me, "Hey." So half an hour later, I respond to him and I say, "Your response to me saying I didn't feel properly taken care of as your guest is disappointing. Unless you're contacting me to discuss making it up to me, there's nothing to talk about." At the point of reading these messages to you, it is 9 a.m. He has not responded. I'm not waiting on a response from him. In fact, this chat has been archived. So if a message comes in, I'm not going to see it unless I go out of my way to open WhatsApp and check my archived folder. He did it to himself. But this is a perfect example of graceful assertion, especially in the face of what appears to be a conflict. He's probably used to women making excuses for him and giving him the benefit of doubt, or he's probably used to women being a lot more emotional and argumentative. I'm none of those things. First of all, I don't know this guy from anywhere other than a party. The little respect I had for him was because he works at a record label that looks after other artists that I also enjoy their music. So he's a cool connect to have. I don't see him in the context of dating or romantic connection. No. I see him in the context of, this could be someone that could be beneficial to my life to some degree. Just like how he sees me as somebody he could potentially have sex with. That's the whole reason why he approached me. He did not approach me because he thinks I've got a cool vibe and cool personality. No. He approached me because I looked good at that party And he knew I was a good dancer because he could see me bringing the energy, and he thought she would be fun to fuck. So the way to get in a position where he's likely to fuck me is invite me to the club, see if I'll be impressed by that, and then see if we start talking from there. But I can tell he's out of his element here. He's not used to a woman who is just direct and unemotional. And that's another thing about being assertive. Stop being so fucking emotional. A lot of women are just too emotional. And it's irritating because these guys don't care about your emotions. Men are not people who you go to discuss emotions. And I feel like unless that man is genuinely devoted to taking care of you, unless that man is multi-dimensionally invested in you, especially financially, save your emotions for your group chat. I see it happen time and time again where women think that they're being assertive by being emotional. When actually, if you're too emotionally invested, the assertion won't even be in your favor because all the guy sees is that you're emotionally invested, which is satisfying for him. But when you're cold, stern, and clear, that's really scary for men. Because now they know, oh shit, I can't even pull a fast one on her. She's clocked me and she's not emotional. Is she talking to another guy? That's where their mind goes. When you're calm and collected, they just think that you're talking to another man who's got better things going for him. And that scares them. So I believe in stop arguing and take action. Now, with this guy who I read the text messages interaction, my prediction of where this is likely to go, now that I've said to him, unless you're contacting me to make it up to me, we have nothing to talk about, I think he's going to go ghost. Because make it up to me. I don't know him that well. He don't know me that well. There's less of a reason, in my opinion, for him to feel compelled to want to repair this when we only just met a few days ago. We've barely even spoken. The most talking we've done is this stupid back and forth over text where he's trying to deflect it onto me and I'm saying, I don't know why you're talking to me, bro. Unless you're talking to repair this, I don't care. He doesn't strike me as the kind of man who is used to repairing situations with women by making it up to her. So I predict that he'll go ghost, which is no skin off my back. It's literally a man. um, and I think it's just an important example to share in how you can be assertive, even if you're not in a situation with a guy that you're dating, but it's still a guy who fancies you. Because how you handle the earliest form of discomfort sets the tone for the rest of what could be a relationship with that man. Men pay attention to how you respond to the discomfort that they create. Most times, they're testing you. Just like how women test men test women too. There was another guy who he tried to test me by negging. Do you know what negging is? If you've been listening to this podcast, then you've probably heard me talk about negging. But if you're new here, negging is basically when a man tries to bring your self-esteem down a few notches by criticizing you, or by trying to imply that you're not that good looking, or by him making a joke that is essentially aimed to sort of insult you a little bit, just to see if you'll be in on that joke too. And if you're in on that joke, or if you agree with it, or if you let it slide, then it means that he now knows that he can bring you down to his level because he perceives that you are obviously better than him to some degree, and that's why he feels like he has to bring you down because he can't come up and meet you up there, especially if he knows that you're the type of woman who dates men who can provide way more than he could ever. So I had a recent scenario where I met some guy while I was out in the south of France. And I was in the south of France for a advertising and marketing festival. It's highly coveted and many of the world's industry leaders and celebrities attend to network, to speak, and to connect with all sorts of people across the creative industry. And so this particular guy, he's a DJ. We're actually from the same city. We're both from London. We're both Nigerian. But for some reason, we've never had the chance to actually hang out properly. We've met before in London at an event. And funny enough, he's the one that brought this up. I completely forgot that I even had that interaction with him. But he said to me, the first time I met you, I asked you if I could dance with you and you told me to spray you money. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like something I would have said. If you lot don't know, listen, I'm with Mad, you know. Sometimes if I want to get rid of a guy and I don't want to be rude about it, or I feel sexy enough that day to be a little savage, I just say wild things like, well, maybe if you're going to spray me money, then we can dance together. Because the likelihood is he's not going to have money to spray me. Like, who's carrying cash on them? Especially in this UK. Second of all, even if he's carrying cash, it's not going to be that much. Thirdly, most men don't like being told that there are conditions upon which they'll be able to dance with a girl. At most men will be happy with me saying, oh, if you buy me a drink, we can dance together. Oh, that's fine for them. But spray money, hey, we have a problem here. So when I said it to him that day, he obviously laughed it off and then we didn't dance together. But the fact that when I saw him in Cannes, which is where we were in South of France, in Cannes, the fact that when I saw him in Cannes, that was the first thing he brought up to me. It made me laugh because like, wow, you remember that interaction? That's funny. Anyway, in that same conversation in Cannes, he spent the whole time trying to convince me to let him take me out on a date. And I was doing everything in my power to like swat away his advances just because I love watching a man fight for his life. I love making men prove their worth to me because it's amusing and it's entertaining, and I find some humor in watching men paint a picture of themselves that they know they can't live up to. So this guy obviously began painting the picture of himself that he knew he couldn't live up to. When I said to him, well, I only date providers, the way he was quick to say, yeah, I'm a provider. I was like, okay, we'll have to see. He asked if he could take me for dinner. I said, well, if you can tell me where you have in mind, I'll let you know if I like it. And then he mentioned an area of London that I wasn't enticed by, and the way I rumpled my face. And he then kept on suggesting other things to try and distract me from the disappointment of his suggestion. So I actually really enjoyed his energy. He was really, really fun. And he had the type of banter that I like having with men because, I'm attracted to Nigerian men, especially because flirting with them is usually the fun bit, because Nigerian men, they love a challenge, innit? So when you're flirting with a Nigerian man and you're making it really hard for him, he's excited by that because he finds you attractive and he's trying to figure out how you can get in. And when you deliberately give him little leeway, or when you give him small approval, he loves that because he feels like he's getting somewhere. So the conversation was popping, great chat. Me and him ended up hanging out for the rest of that evening. We were supposed to go to some party in the club that everyone wanted to be at, but the queue was crazy. So we went to someone's yacht instead. There was it wasn't really a party happening on the yacht. It was just kind of like people just hanging out. But in that process of us finding the yacht, we spent a lot of time talking together and walking together to the yacht, and it was just nice to have a friend, guy friend. I wasn't thinking anything of it because he's not my type. He's a DJ. Like I've had DJs of even bigger scale than him try to chat me up, and I still wouldn't even go there because it's a DJ. A DJ is an absolute whore. I'm so sorry. DJ, please, I beg. What am I doing with DJ? And he didn't. That's one thing he didn't like. He didn't like the fact that I view DJs in a particular way, and he was trying everything he could to try and disprove to me that DJs are whores. So we get to this yacht, and trust me, to end up taking over this yacht. Ugh.
Because what happened was I got on this yacht and I realized, oh, this is interesting energy here. It was all a bunch of like proper rich old money white men. And the friend in common that had invited me and this DJ onto the yacht, he's my friend of years. He's rich entrepreneur, black guy who's been doing well. So I already knew that I'm safe. It's fine. But when I clocked that it's all these rich white men, I was like, I'm gonna have to assert my dominance here. So one by one, I would go to each of the white guys and I'll introduce myself, talk to them. They ask me what I do, and I'll use a particular trigger word to just see what happens when I say it. So I'll say to them, well, I have a podcast where I teach women how to dominate men. And normally when I say the word dominate, I can see them going red. I see that they get more interested. So one of the guys, he was like, oh, never heard about that before. That sounds really interesting. Tell me more. So then I was like, well, in my spare time, I'm a dominatrix. So, I just love teaching women how to use their power more. And he was getting more excited by that. And then he was like, what kind of things do you do? So I was giving him the little menu of the deplorable things I've done to men. Just to see what would make him get excited. Like, I'm curious to see what is this guy like. So I was telling him things like, some guys I just smother their face with my beautiful feet. Some guys, they come up to me and they politely ask if I can bully them. And if they're a good boy, I consider it. Some guys, they want to worship my feet, so I make them perform being a good footrest first, so I can see how obedient and diligent they are. So each time I would describe an example of things I've done with men, I want to see which one he's more responsive to, so I can get what kind of kinky one is this one, because from when he heard me say I'm a dominatrix, I could tell that he was drawn to me. So I needed to really just like land this plane properly. And so he was asking me, well, what about two? Do you do two women? Do you do two women dominating a guy? And at that point I was like, okay, he's probably gonna try and get me to do something on this boat. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. But what we are gonna do is something else, which I'll get to. So when he asked me that question, what about two women? I said to him, well, there was one time where me and two of my friends, we actually dominated this guy. I told him a whole story time about a situation where, true story, me and my two friends, we ganged up on this white guy. He paid us, and he even paid us extra money to gang up on him for an extra hour. So after telling him that story, he got a, character profile of what I'm capable of, and then to really land that plane, well on the runway, I said to him, I'd like you to pour me a drink. Then he was like, oh, do you want white wine or rosé? I think I prefer rosé for now. And I had to command him just to really seal the deal on the brainwashing that I've just done. Because I've just spent the past, 7 minutes telling him about me being a dominatrix and what I've done with and to men. And now I need to give him a small sample of the domination, but it's also for me to see if it's going to work on him. And it worked. He poured me the drink with no issue. He was a bit drunk, but that's not the problem, because I just needed him to do something for me. And after a while, he went away. I went to another white guy, did the same spiel. Basically went to all four of them. Not all of them were into it necessarily, but I just had to basically set the tone for how I'm going to be in that room, because ain't nobody about to make me feel uncomfortable. Again, I was going in with the assumption that anything could happen on this boat. Yeah, this is some rich white man, and I'm not scared of none of you. So I had to be like, oh yeah, I'm the captain now. That was essentially what I was doing, and it worked. Because let me tell you what happened. the guy who I actually had come onto the boat with, the DJ who was flirting with me, I left him to go and be talking to other girls. And towards the end of the night, while I was waiting for a couple of my friends to finish talking to the people they were talking to, because in Cannes, the strategy is you need to get in a group and get an Uber to the direction you're going in, because it's so much cheaper and it's much safer. And for me, I was just waiting for my guy friends because I didn't feel comfortable going home on my own. So my guy friends were just wrapping up loose ends with their conversations that they were having, so we could all start getting out of this boat and going home, or back to our villa, I should say. So while I was waiting, the first white guy I spoke to, he came up to me. He was a little bit more drunk. The woman he was with, I believe she had left the yacht. He come to me and he's like, I really want you to dominate me. And I was like, oh, are you sure about that? He was like, yeah. So, mind you, at this point, yeah, there's maybe 20 people or 15 people on the boat, all in their own sort of individual conversations. Lots and lots of girls. Lots of girls. Girls that maybe most of them I already know, because we're all London bunch. But them girls, they weren't really talking to the white guys. They were all just kind of in conversation amongst each other. But I'm only saying that to set the scene of the yacht. So in front of everyone, I said to this guy, sit on that chair. Now, when I say in front of everyone, it's not that everyone was watching. It's more just that we didn't have any private space. So if somebody was paying attention to what's going on, then they would have seen. I told him, sit on that chair. It was like a foldable chair. Sit on that chair. He sat on it. I walked past him and I sat on the foldable chair next to him. And I said to him, you're going to need both hands, so put the wine glass down. And he put the wine glass down, and then very slowly, I took off my shoes, just some cute heeled mules, took off my shoes, slipped my shoes off my feet, and I did a little 90 degrees swivel to my left, and I put both of my legs on his lap. At this point, I'm barefoot, and I'm looking at him, and I say, "Now rub my feet." And he just starts rubbing my feet, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh, trust me to end up fucking dominating a white guy on his yacht. I assumed it was his yacht from how he was acting. I got the energy. It was either it was his yacht or he is in partnership with somebody who owns the yacht. So he's rubbing my feet. And that goes on for maybe like 2 minutes. And I think he held my foot wrong. And I was like, I don't like the way he held my foot. And he was like, sorry. And I was like, sorry, goddess. He was like, sorry, goddess. Carries on rubbing my feet for another maybe 10 minutes. And then he has to leave. So he gives me back my foot. And it was interesting because the DJ that I'd come with, he saw that whole thing happen. And that's another thing about asserting your power without being combative or aggressive. Sometimes you can assert your power by interacting with other men in front of the guy who you want to give a particular non-verbal message to. So what I mean by that is, let's say there's a guy you're with and you fancy him. You get to a particular venue or place and there's another guy who's chatting you up. It's nice to entertain that new guy strategically in front of the guy you came with in a way that allows him to see how confident you are, and for him to see that the way you've been acting with the current guy that you're sort of flirting with, who you've come with, is the same way you treat every other guy, including this new one that you're just talking to, for the sake of showing your existing guy what's really up. So that's what I was doing on that boat. Whether I had come with that DJ or not, I still would have behaved exactly as I behaved, because for me, I'm actually not scared of rich men. The women who are like, oh, rich men are scary. No, broke men are scary because they got nothing to lose. They got nothing to lose, girl. They're the ones that will stalk you over £40. It was like, oh, rich men are gonna stalk you. The most of them don't have time. I promise you, this is not to devalue your individualism. This is not to imply that you are not special. But I promise you, rich men can replace you 10 times over, especially if all they want you for is your beauty, your youth, your breast. They can find that in 5 other gals who they might even decide are prettier than you. It's never that serious. Also, the rich men I'm talking about, they got a lot to lose. It's not in their interest. It's actually not in their interest to put you in the type of danger you think they're going to put you in. Also, off the back of that, all men are capable of violence towards women, but not all men will do that. Just like how you lot love to defend broke men, and you love to say, "Oh, but they're not all broke men are useless. Some of them are really good at keeping you company." Okay, well, not all rich men have the time to kill you. Okay, but for me, to minimize the chances, because you never know where it's coming from. Because, like I said, all men have equal propensity to be violent. Yeah, to minimize the risk, I like to just go in and own my space. I'm the captain now. For me, it is a comfort zone to dominate white men. If I clock that a man is white and rich, I'm assuming that he likes dominant women. And the assumption almost always works. So with this DJ guy, he witnessed that thing play out. And I'm glad he saw that happen, because now he knows, like, I get my way with men if I want to. I'm not lacking in self-esteem. And so I think me and him, we went to, because we still had like a couple days left to be in the south of France. So I think we went to a club night together or something. And I was incredibly bored. But I think he stayed back with some of my other guy friends. So I left with a guy friend of mine and we just chatted for a bit and then we got Uber back to our villa. But I didn't see him again until we got back to London. And so we get back to London. He is, messaging me. He's keen on seeing me. He's liking my stuff on Instagram. He's watching my stories. You know, the whole thing of like, oh, new guy you're talking to. He's all over your social media like a rash. Predictable. So I think one day what happened was he was already close to my area and he asked if he could drive by and just like come hang out and chat. And I agreed because I don't mind. And so he did. It was nice. It was actually really nice to hang out and chat with him. However, this is the part where I was like, you're not about to do that. So I made a joke being like, because there was a guy that walked past and he was making the sound of like, when you wake up in the morning and you've kind of got hay fever and you're like clearing your throat, that noise. The guy walking past us was doing that noise. And I made a joke to him being like, oh my God, I really relate to him. I got hay fever. Thank God I live alone because that's the noises I'll be making when I wake up. And then this guy had the nerve to then say to me, no, what happened was he laughed about it. And then later that evening, after we both, gone our separate ways, he had the nerve to say to me, I bet you're an ugly sleeper. And I didn't like that. That was the negging. That to me felt like negging because you're supposed to say, I bet you're a beautiful sleeper. What provoked you to call me an ugly sleeper, please? That's bare weird. I didn't like that at all. Because it made me think, this guy is running a joke, but the joke is tactless. If this man is tactless enough to make such a sloppy joke, then there is more disappointment and probably some stinginess. And I don't want any parts. So let me see if I can find what I said to him when he said, I bet you're an ugly sleeper. Because that brother. I didn't like that at all. So when he said, I bet you're an ugly sleeper, I said to him, wait, where is it? I said to him, this message was a huge turn off. Have fun on Friday. Because me and him were supposed to be going to a party that he was DJing at a few days later. But you can't call me an ugly sleeper and expect me to still be excited to hang out with you, especially if I'm a woman that you're trying to flirt with. So when I said to him, this was a huge turn off, have fun on Friday, he says to me, it was a joke, come on. I guess you didn't find it funny. Well, I'm sorry. I was just making reference to the comment you made about scratching your throat. So what he means by I was making reference to the comment you made about scratching your throat is, do you remember that time when I was out with him and some guy walked past us and he was making the hay fever clearing throat noises, and I said, oh, I make those noises in the morning. That's what he said he was referring to. I'm not seeing those dots though. Those dots ain't joining in my eyes. What's that got to do with how I sleep though? That doesn't make me an ugly sleeper. It makes me someone that has hay fever. I'm a beautiful sleeper. What the hell? So I just didn't like that. And then I ignored the message. He came back to me in the morning. He sent me like a little gif of a dancing cat that says good morning. And I responded to him, I don't hang around men who want to bring me down by calling me ugly as a joke. And then he came back to me and he said, I think everything is contextual, Chidi. I didn't call you ugly. I was genuinely just regurgitating something you made reference to and made a joke of it. I would never want to bring you or any other person down in general. That's not my character. And of course, I apologize, as I can see that made you feel away. I definitely want to enjoy Friday with you, so let me know if you change your mind. So at this point, I was like, you know what, I'm going to let it go. He's learned what he needed to learn from it, which is don't make no stupid jokes about calling me ugly sleeper as a joke. I'm not ugly. Me and the word ugly have nothing in common. And a man who's flirting with you should never ever use that word to describe you, even as a joke, because that is negging. But because at this point, I don't see him as someone I'm gonna date. I see him as very friend vibes. He's another guy who I really like the way he DJs. He's a cool person to know. So I just said in response, how will you be making it up to me? And then he made a joke, which, fine, I'll accept it. He said to me, Suya always helps. Plus, I guess on Friday, I need to make sure your enjoyment is extra, extra now. So if you don't know, Suya is it's an African snack, a Nigerian snack of, meat dipped in very spicy powder, like grilled meat. It's yummy. So in response to him saying, Suya always helps, plus I guess Friday I need to make sure your enjoyment is extra, extra now, I said, I am nodding in full agreement. And then he made a joke being like, how are you trying to stress me this early? You're actually ruthless. Give me small grace, I beg. He was joking. And I said to him, if you consider that ruthless, you won't last very long round here. So if you can notice from my tone, even though I've essentially like accepted his apology, I'm still being a little bit playfully stern with him. Like that last joke I made in response to him calling me ruthless, I said, if you consider that ruthless, you're not going to last long around here. Because that makes him, as a man, that makes him feel like, oh shit, okay, I need to man up then. Because she's going to see me as weak if I can't handle her ruthlessness. Good. So, in these examples of interactions with men that I have shared, I hope you can see how assertiveness doesn't have to always be aggressive. Expressing yourself doesn't have to always be emotional. And it doesn't have to always be a paragraph. That's another one that we really need to rein it in. This paragraph. It's actually not everyday paragraph, guys. Guys, guys. Say the truest thing that you know. That will help you to keep the message concise. Reduce the words to the bare essentials. So, for example, let's say you're in a situation where you're out with your boyfriend or a guy you're seeing / early stage dating, and you noticed that he was talking to another girl for a long time, and it was clear to you that he was flirting with her. And because you're not in a position where the relationship is solidified or exclusive, you feel awkward about expressing that you didn't like that, but you still feel like you need to say something. You can phrase that to him in a way that still keeps you on your high horse, but still communicates that you felt disrespected. So you could be like, I mean, of course, this is if he asks you what's wrong, because I don't really believe in going up to him and being like, I don't like that you did that. Rather, I wait for him to notice that I've been distant, because I believe in a distance first. Men respond to actions more than words. You don't need to come and lecture him. Just go quiet on him. And if he says, "Oh, I noticed that you've been distant. Is everything okay?" I wasn't impressed by your behavior in the club the other night. I noticed that you were very invested in your conversations with other women, and that was a huge turn off for me because your behavior was neglectful. See how that was unemotional, but still expresses that you felt neglected. Notice how I avoided saying I felt like. Men don't care about feelings. Men don't care about feelings. I know we want to believe otherwise, but these lot don't care about feelings, bro. Instead, just say your behavior was neglectful. I wasn't impressed by that. I was turned off. You gave me the impression that you're not the gentleman that I thought you were. Because that will get you closer to a place where he's more likely to want to repair things than you being emotional and having outbursts and crying and being too clingy. It just doesn't work. It doesn't look good. It makes you look like an absolute loser. And when a man sees you as a loser, he'll treat you like one. I think as well, women need to develop a backbone if they're going to be dating men. You know why I say that? Because dating men is not by force. Dating men is not inherently mandatory for you to live a fully fleshed out human experience. You can live a very full, vibrant, complete life without dating men. So if you're going to be choosing to date men, you need to have a backbone. If you are a pushover and you think that you can get by on being just how you are and you're dating men, you're in danger. You're in danger because to me, how I see dating men is you need to have a lot of self-restraint and an ability to regulate yourself as a woman if you're going to be letting men occupy emotional and sexual real estate in your life. If you're somebody who is very emotional and sensitive and needs somebody to be reassuring her, girl, back to the drawing board, sit it out for a while. You don't have to date. I don't think you're ready to date. Because in order to date men without losing yourself, you have to be assertive. You have to learn that you're going to upset people if you are asserting yourself. And yes, you will upset the men who feel entitled to you. You need to learn to become okay with disappointing men. Because oftentimes your self-worth will come at the expense of a man's ability to take advantage of you. But if you're a Miss Nice Girl, understanding girlfriend, I'm not an understanding girlfriend. I'm not. I don't even want that to be my identity because
Understanding girlfriend is the girlfriend who accepts a man's excuses. I'm not saying that you should be completely unforgiving and absolutely unsympathetic towards the changes that we all experience in this life that we couldn't predict or prepare for. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if a man is cheating on you, and a man talks to you anyhow and you let things slide, he thinks you're a mumu. Do you know that? Personally, I wouldn't have that. I'm not trying to start nothing, but I'm just saying, personally, I wouldn't have that. Because I think the understanding girlfriend thing is nice as a concept, as an idea, but baby, that shit ain't practical. A lot of you are too quick to forgive. And I think many of you are not keeping that man on ice for long enough because you lose stamina and you forget why you are upset with him. You lose sight of the bigger picture and you develop amnesia because you're horny and you're lonely. But you don't understand that if you're too quick to forgive a man, he will not value your forgiveness. That's why I believe in making men make up for it. Get men into the habit and pattern of making up for their mistakes. And you can decide what making up for it looks like for you, because you will have a different type of connection with each man. It won't be the same type of making up for it, because the context in which he offended you will have its own set of outcomes and consequences that will need to be attended to. So one man's making up for it. Yes, it might be him buying you shoe or bag. Another man's making up for it will be he's gonna take you out to dinner. Or it depends on what level of knowing him you're even in. But it's just about getting into the habit of making men make up for it. Stop accepting that I'm sorry with mouth. Because the more you make a man make up for it, the more he has to now think twice about what he's about to do. He now thinks, wait, there might be a consequence for this behavior. And that consequence is probably going to cost me. So I'd rather just not piss her off. That's how you do it. And a lot of you lot, you don't have the sexual self-control required to be an assertive woman. You lot are still sleeping with these men after they've offended you, after they've disrespected you, after they've played in your face. You're still sleeping with him. Ha, couldn't be me. So I'm saying it comes down to self-control. Do you have enough self-control to put the pussy away in storage? Do you have enough self-control to stick to your guns when you decide you're not sleeping with him until he feels the burn of the consequences? Do you have that level of self-control? You don't. You don't. Not only are you too forgiving, you have little to no self-restraint sexually. So you're the kind of person that will spend 2 hours on the phone venting to your friend about how offended and hurt you are by this guy's behavior. And mind you, this isn't new behavior. You're complaining for the 3rd time about the same thing. And your friend, being me, your hypothetical friend being me in your head, says to you, babe, if I was you, don't sleep with him for a while. That's not acceptable. If you sleep with him, you're giving him the wrong impression. You're giving him the impression that what he's done is okay. Because him having sexual access to you is an honor. And in his brain, he codes that as an award. Or as a reward, I should say. So you're rewarding bad behavior. You're rewarding and you are affirming and reinforcing the behavior that you do not like by still sleeping with him. Men don't necessarily see it as, oh, she's upset with me, but she's also a sexual being. So, of course, like she still wants to have sex with me, but I know she's upset with me. So, I still need to work to earn her trust, even though she's letting me have sex. No. If once a guy knows that you're accepting enough of him to have sex with him again, he sees it as, okay, well, she's obviously fine with that behavior. She didn't like it, but she's tolerating it so much so that I'm neck deep inside her. Welp. So, I just think that you lot that be calling your friends to complain about the man that you're not going to leave and you're still fucking him, goofy. I promise you, that guy is respecting you less and less and less because you're not assertive. Because he knows that that small guy that you're doing, that small, oh, I don't like this, I'm leaving. He knows that you'll be back. He knows that you'll be back. He knows you don't have anywhere else to go because you're too scared to be alone. It's not that you're homeless. It's not that you cannot live without him. It's that you are scared of being alone and you're too emotionally involved. That's why I don't believe in giving a guy too much emotional involvement if he hasn't given you ample, justifiable, secure reason to do so. I'm actually not against the concept of being emotionally attached to someone you care about. I'm not against it. I think in the right circumstances, in the correct scenario, where there is trust and respect and adoration, of course, it makes sense to emotionally connect with a man who has the bandwidth to see you in that way. But I don't believe in over emotionally connecting with men who you're just fucking, or men who they're not very nice to you. Like there's certain behaviors listen, when you're single or if you're not partnered and you have friends who are partnered, that is an opportunity for you to observe men's behavior, observe how your friends are behaving towards those men, and pay attention to what those outcomes are. Because I can tell you oh, girl, I be seeing a lot of things happening. And I know that in my head, I'd be like, personally, I would not have that. Girl? Because there's certain things that I don't say. If a woman is calling me to complain about her man, it doesn't matter how long I've been friends with her. If I know her well enough to know that she's probably not going to leave, then I'm not going to say the full thing that I want to say. Because it's not going to help the situation. It's only going to make her feel maybe possibly offended, or it might make her think that I'm being mean when actually it's like you don't have the willpower to create the outcome that I think you could have gotten from this same situation. Because if I was in that situation, here's how I would have handled it. And I know that if I handled the situation in the way that I'm giving you the example of, I promise you all these other things you're complaining about would not have happened. But you, man, don't listen. Straight women don't listen. Straight women are draining. Draining. They do not listen. They all think that, oh, they're the exception. Your pussy is not exceptional enough to make a man change his behavior. Your pussy is just an organ. What sets you apart is your ability to walk away from him. Most of you can't walk away from these men because you're already emotionally invested at the wrong time. You got too carried away with the fantasies of what your future could look like with this man. And so you let that fantasy govern the way that you behave in reality. And now here you are, stuck and upset. And you have occasional fleeting moments where things are good. But you know deep down that at some point it's going to happen again. And that's what you chose for yourself. So I believe in pulling your energy back. You can be very quietly assertive without even being verbal. Just by using the tool of absence. Make yourself scarce on purpose. Because he doesn't deserve the access to you that you've been giving him. He's obviously gotten carried away. Carried away enough to feel comfortable
treating you in such a way that you're wondering how you got here. There's no need to wonder, especially if you pay attention to how you're behaving in real time. Me, that's what I do. I don't care if people say, "Oh, you're not being relaxed. This doesn't sound this is too exhausting." Yes, we know it's exhausting to you because you don't know what it means to have self-worth. All you do is give your power away to men and you call it being a free spirit. We know. But no, it's not exhausting actually to pay attention to a man's behavior, because you were minding your business. That man approached you because he wants to sleep with you, because he wants to press your bum bum. And so you have every right and every responsibility over yourself to be vigilant of what you welcome into your life as a woman. Because men are capable of harmful things. Men are capable of derailing you from your purpose. Men are capable of siphoning your joy. Men are capable of giving you sexually transmitted infections that can lead to fertility issues. And they feel no way about concealing said sexually transmitted infection. I have seen that happen to people where they slept with men and those men didn't tell them that they passed an STI onto those women. You'll be surprised how little regard men have for women who make themselves available to them so easily. You would think that men would love and appreciate and value the women who make themselves sexually available to them. But that's not how it happens. Actually, they have less and less respect for you. They might not say it to you, but they're thinking it. And if they're thinking it, they're probably feeling it. And if they're feeling it, they're probably showing it. But if you have decided to insist on a different narrative about how that man views you, then you're not even going to be seeing the behavior for what it is. You're going to be seeing it for what you want it to be. You'll be reading into it and applying your own definitions and meanings and symbolisms onto behavior that is clearly and simply disrespect, disregard, and devaluation of who you are because you made yourself too accessible. I am not in any way victim blaming or implying that how a man treats you is directly because of how you treat yourself. That's not always the case. And yet, at the same time, I go back to my original point of, if you are choosing to date men, that is a choice you are making because it is not mandatory. So if you are choosing to date men, you are opting into a game. You need to play to win. You're not playing to be a nice person. That don't get you anywhere, bro. They don't even write books about pleasant women. They don't write books about women who are nice. Yeah, she's nice. She's nice. That's not interesting to read. They write books about women who, yeah, maybe she's nice, but she's got an edge to her. She's got a stern streak to her. There's something spicy about her character. There's something multi-layered about her personality. There's something dynamic and complex about her. There's something contradictory about her greatness. Those are the women who get written about. And similarly speaking, those are the women who stand out to men and to everyone. Being nice as a woman, boo-hoo. Nobody cares, girl. Because all the nice women who have ended their journeys on this earth in due time have left with nothing to show for their niceness. Nothing at all. So while you're still here on this earth, you have a responsibility to ensure that you are not being taken for a dickhead. There are many women who embrace the position of dickhead willingly because they hope they'll find love. And then this said love that they end up finding, they're not even happy anyway. But because they've compromised so much of themselves to attain it, they're scared to let it go. That's why I don't believe in investing in a man. The more you invest, the harder it's going to be to walk away. Do you know that? Because for a woman, her biggest investment is her emotions. For a man, his biggest investment is his money. I don't care if you don't like how it sounds. That's reality. I actually do not like that, you know, men don't get to be their full emotional, expressive, delicate selves. But that's the world that they created, and that's the world that they choose to reinforce. So I don't walk around feeling sorry for them and trying to create justice for men by becoming their therapeutic safe space. That does not yield the results you want. They're just going to take advantage of you. They're going to see you as a mule, and they will extract everything they can get from you and leave you dry like a sucked mango seed. So when I see men and I see them struggling and they've approached me to chat me up, I'm not interested. I'm not attracted to a man who's struggling, because that tells me that you're somebody who will sink this ship. Because if a man is struggling financially and the first thing that comes to his mind is, this is a great time to have a girlfriend, what does that tell you about him? Number one, it tells you that his priorities are misaligned. Number two, it tells you that he sees women as a form of escape rather than a site for investment. And number three, it tells you that he's wayward. So, what am I doing with a man who has no sense of prioritizing building his future instead of looking for pussy? That's not a very useful man, because I promise you, there are men out there who recognize they are of little to no use to a woman right now. So they're using this time to get their grind going, go make something of themselves, so that when they come back with money, status, and a sense of pride in themselves as men, they have something tangible to bring to a woman's life. Now, you and I may not agree that men should have to be building their self-esteem around their status, around their money, around their success. But just because we disagree with it doesn't change the fact that that's how men see themselves. That's another condition of the patriarchy. Men, in the same breath, will try to gaslight you out of expecting a man to provide, but they still build their self-esteem on their ability to provide for women. That's why when you go to the club, men are in competition with each other on who's going to buy the most bottles, who's going to throw the most money on dancers, who's going to be the man with the biggest chain. Because they care about success, and they know that the only thing a man can compete with another man on is his ability to provide for a woman. Because a big dick can only take you so far. Anybody can have a big dick. Even a homeless man in the street can probably have a big dick, but that's not enough to build a sustainable generation on. So I wish for more women to use the sense that God has given them. But it's a shame to see so many beautiful, smart women just throw their futures away because the guy is tall and has nice shoulders and he's got some money. Because this is another misconception I think people have of my ideology. There's this idea that I must be this person who would just take any man who's got money. Nope. Money is not enough for a man to stay in my life if I'm not satisfied. For me, money is a non-negotiable. So I wouldn't date a broke man. That's just not useful to me. It doesn't do anything for me. Having said that, if a man's got money, but he is presenting characteristics and traits that I don't like, he can go, because I can meet another man who's got money. To me, meeting men who have money is just like meeting men who don't have money. They're everywhere. And you attract men with money when you look like money. So that doesn't mean you need to buy designer and wear Van Cleef jewelry. No. It means there's a way that you carry yourself and present yourself and do your makeup and how you walk and how you interact with people that gives the impression that you are of a particular lifestyle. If this doesn't if this doesn't appeal to you, the whole dating men with money thing, that's fine. I don't need every woman to think like me for me to get what I want to get out of dating men. I only share this because I've seen the bravest, the strongest, the sexiest of soldiers lose their way because of a man. And I know that if I can encourage just one woman to change her direction and recenter herself, there is an incredible ripple effect that can come from that. So that's why I'm deeply passionate about this work, because yes, women, this is a matter of life or death, actually. I don't care if that sounds dramatic because it's serious. We are all one man away from a very different life. And if you pick the wrong man, that's your life down the drain. I'm seeing it happening around me, and I want to call attention to it because what is keeping my people stuck is the fear of asserting oneself. It's that feeling of freeze. You don't know what to say. You feel like the words slip away from you. And you know what? If you're that kind of person, that's actually okay. Let me tell you how you can handle that. Let's say you're in a situation where a man has disappointed you in person and you feel like you want to say something, but you're kind of panicking. You kind of feel like you haven't arranged your words. You don't know what you want to say. All you know is that it's hurting. That's okay. Focus on the feeling. Remove yourself from that space in a way that feels authentic to how you would say it. If you need to go quiet for 2 days, just so that you can formulate your thoughts in the classiest, most concise way possible, then you need to take that time. Even if in those 2 days he's trying to reach you, you have to ghost him for those 2 days because he will want to hear from you. And when he does hear from you, the power is now in your hands because he now wants to hear from you. So you have the power and the space on the podium to talk your shit, but it has to be concise. None of this paragraph shit. You need to start learning how to use language effectively with men. Too much waffling gives the impression that you're nervous or anxious or that you don't believe yourself. Men can tell when you don't even believe what you're saying. That's why I actually don't really believe in this whole like talking about soft life on the internet anymore. I think from now on, just carry yourself like the life you want. And trust me, if you're conveying that clearly, you don't need to tell a man about soft life. He will just know from how you act. And if you do need to drop hints, you just say you only date providers. You've only ever dated providers. But to go back to my point of really learning the importance of assertiveness, it will save your life. It will quite literally save your life. If you're a people pleaser woman, if you're a pushover, men know and they will target you because they know that you're scared to assert yourself. That's how you get in danger. That's how you get in situation of, is this rich man going to abuse me? Listen to me, bruv. It's not me you will abuse, because part of a person abusing you, especially with someone that you don't know from anywhere and is randomly coming to your life, what you allow is what will continue. That's not going to sound nice to people who have survived abuse. As someone that's survived abuse myself, not from a man, but from a mother, what I can tell you is, first of all, having survived an abusive parent creates room for you to be more likely to encounter an abusive partner in future if you do not learn how to advocate for yourself. But another thing as well is I strongly believe in what you allow with a man is what continues. And that applies to negative behavior and positive behavior. If you reinforce the positive behavior, because I genuinely believe, like men deserve to know that they're doing a good job. Men deserve to know I really love this when you do this for me. This is why I love having you in my life as my partner. I just know I can rely on you. You're somebody who I know that if I was in an emergency, I can call you. You make me feel so loved. I'm so turned on by how much of a gentleman you are. I felt compelled to write you this sweet note and slip it in your pocket to remind you that you are so incredible and I'm so happy we met. Like, you can still be cute and sweet and romantic and expressive about the things you love and adore about that man, as long as you always make it about how good he treats you, because you're passively reinforcing that behavior. In the same way, if a man is being neglectful or doing things that's hurting you, or you're noticing that he is slipping off the ball a bit, you have got to do something. You don't always have to say something, but you got to do something. And sometimes doing something just means distance. Because all in all, men are more responsive to silence and distance than they are to words and emotions. I know it doesn't sound nice, but keep on doing what doesn't work and you will see that it doesn't work. I have met countless women from various walks of life telling me about the most incredibly dramatic, insane situations. And what I have deduced from hearing all of that is, half the time, the responsibility on the woman's part is you allowed the little things to snowball into bigger things. I am not victim blaming or victim shaming you. What I'm saying is, this is a guy who you randomly met. You chose to give him room into your life because you were feeling horny and you fancied him. You noticed that he was kind of chipping away at your self-esteem. He was negging you a little bit here and there. He is stingy, or, he would ghost you in and out and then reappear out of nowhere. And you allowed all of that to happen. Because the first time he ghosted you, you could have just ghosted him back and maybe made a comment to him that implies that you're not turned on by men who are neglectful. The first time he tried to neg you, like for the example with the guy who jokingly said he thinks I'm an ugly sleeper, you have to nip that shit in the bud immediately. I don't care if it makes you look like you're too strict. It's better to look too strict than to look like a pushover. And strict babes get way further with men than the pushover soft girlies do. Ask me how I know. As somebody that's a dominatrix, and I still consider myself a baby dom because I'm only 2 years into exploring the curiosity of being a dominant woman, I could tell you that I've gained way more from men from being stern, direct, and clear than I have trying to be passive and nice and not asking for too much and hoping that he will do the thing that I want him to do. No. Hope is not a strategy. You need to employ strategy. You need to know what you want your life to look like so that you can determine what kind of man you want in your life. Because if you know where you want to be in 10 years' time, for example, for me, 10 years' time, I want to own property. At least one property. Okay, in that case, what kind of man will I be dating from now? I obviously can't date someone in his 30s or 20s because that person is still on the ladder of defining his own self financially. So I need to be looking at man who is in his late 40s, early 50s and onwards. I don't care if that makes you feel disgusted. I'm not disgusted by it at all. I'm not disgusted by the idea of having a house in my name bought for me by a man who is so devoted to me and so in love with me and so thrilled to have a younger wife that he will do whatever I say. I don't care because I know what I want my life to look like. And this is what I mean by, as a woman, you need to evolve beyond being enticed by things on the surface. You need to evolve beyond the temporary, sensual, and emotional stimulation. You need to look at the concrete facts. You need to think for your future, and that will mean you might need to leave the good looking 30-something-year-old boys alone and find you an older guy who's more likely to say yes to what you want because you have the leverage of being younger and hotter than him. But this is an evolved game for advanced players. And that's why I don't really enjoy talking about dating older men much, because I don't like the way that women act when I talk about it. It's this weird sense of like shamey energy of like, ew, you'd be with an older man. What do you mean ill? Because if you was to marry a man of your same age and God willing, you guys manage to stay together for the next 30 years, if both of you still have a sex drive at the same time, you're going to be fucking an old man. And also, this whole idea of, oh, you mean you have to fuck an old man? You don't have to do anything, guys. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And you don't have to sleep with a man for him to do incredible things for you. But because your imagination is limited by the reality that you have confined yourself to, you're never going to know what else is out there for you. You're never going to know that there are possibilities beyond your imagination. And that all comes from the environment that you curate through what you tolerate. You need to be daring enough to even imagine a life for yourself that exceeds what you have tolerated, that exceeds what people around you are making room for. And that is not an easy thing to do. That's why I love being a formidable woman. I love being a strong woman. I love knowing that I am living the results of a mindset that I chose to embrace because I simply had enough. So, to wrap up this episode, I say all this to say the day you decide you've had enough will be the most important day of your life, because that is where the change can start to germinate. And you need to give yourself all the grace, all the kindness, all the patience you will need, because this is a lifelong project. And I promise you, you will yield better results from being considerate and sure of the life you want than to leave things up to chance and a dice toss on whether or not this man's going to happen to hashtag be the one just because you guys vibe and get along and love each other. Being with a man, it's not about love. It's about stability, financial stability. Because if you're not financially stable and a man is in your life sucking your clit, you're doing it wrong, in my opinion. You're shooting an own goal, and that is only going to bite you in the ass in years to come, where you will look back on your 20s and your 30s and you will so fucking hard wish that you did things differently. So you've still got time right now. You've still got time to reverse it. And on that note, have a beautiful rest of your day or your evening. And as always, I will catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening.